the way you are.
We are all friends here. There are no strangers once you walk inside that door.
Or join us online.
We welcome you to linger in this family of love and hold you in our hearts the way you are. We are all friends here. There are no strangers once you walk inside that door. We welcome you to linger in this family of love and hold you in our hearts the way you are. And hold you in our hearts the way you are. And hold you in our hearts the way you are.
Welcome, everybody, and before you sit down, ha ha ha, sometimes I catch you in time, don't I? Let us do our community blessing, and let's really look at each other when we're doing that this morning, seeing that Christ light shine forth and filling our sanctuary with love. So, I love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. Thank you. And now you may sit down. Andy, do you want to come up and join me? Thank you. So welcome everybody this morning for being here. It looks like it's going to be a pre-summer morning, doesn't it? Yeah, beautifully sunny, predicted warm day. And we appreciate it that you have come out to be with us this morning in joy and love. Thank you, Anton and Laura, for driving down the mountain yet once again to be with us. And our speaker for this morning and the person who will be offering the prayer is Reverend Andy Torkelson, whom you have met before. So let us just settle ourselves in. And Andy's going to lead us in morning prayer.
As we come, as we come together this morning in a consciousness of prayer, we're grateful for the presence and the power of Spirit, that place in which we live and that energy that lives within each and every one of us. And this is an energy for good that is larger than we are, that we can use because we are part of it. So today we make our way into this temple to celebrate that, to celebrate our relationship with Spirit. And this morning, I want to take what we know in this room today, and I want to speak it for our sisters and brothers and all sentient beings throughout this world, no matter where they are. Where whatever the presence of shadow may appear to be, whatever the angst may be, or the questions, or the tears, I know for them this morning, and I know that all of us in this room know for them this morning, the Spirit is right there. So my prayer for them is that they are able to turn towards that presence in consciousness, to embrace that presence, to allow that presence to move to them and through them and for them, to wipe away the tears and to restore their spirit. I'm so grateful for this, so grateful for this relationship. And in my gratitude for that, I let my word go, knowing that it's so, and so it is.
Thank you, Andy. And now, Laura, would you please light the Christ candle for us? I overstepped my bounds. Ken, you can lead us in the affirmation.
Well, I'm gone just 2 weeks and out of here. Out of here. Well, thank you, Laura, for lighting our Christ candle. And let's join in the blessings of our Christ candle. We light this candle to remind us that the light of Christ lives within each one of us. I am the light of Christ. And now for our Lord's Prayer. And we say it from our Aramaic tradition, so let's say it together. Our Father, who is everywhere present, wholeness is your name. Your kingdom is come, your will is being done, in earth as it is in heaven. You give us this day and every day our daily bread. And you forgive us as we forgive. You leave us not in temptation, for you deliver us from error. For you are the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. And now, let us sing our joy song, Stand.
All right, so we are going to stand up for this, and then we're going to sing Stand.
But before we sing this, I'm going to mention that we've picked a couple of special songs today in honor of Andy being here, because Andy and Laura and I are going to be at this wonderful Asilomar gathering, and so we're playing songs from the other two musicians that will be there. So this is a Karen Drucker song, and then we're going to do a song by Jamie Lula in a little while. So Karen Drucker, Stand. Here we go.
So there's a little intro before we launch into the main line. For years I would talk about how I wanted to change the world, but I always left it up to someone else to do. Then I finally realized I needed to take a stand, and that by changing my faith, I could change my life. That's how I could change the world. Here we go. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. We are making a new world now. We are making a new world now. Woo!
Thank you, Laura. That was wonderful, little Karen Drucker. And Al said to say hi to everybody. He's down in Southern California doing dog shows. So I brought my beautiful socks. Oh, no socks. But I will bring forth the daily word. And the daily word today is comfort. The affirmation is, the love in my heart is my comfort. Let's say that together. The love in my heart is my comfort. If the sadness of loss diminishes my joy, I think of happy experiences with the loved ones who are no longer with me. I remember that love we shared will bind us together always. Love can never die. Love, the most beautiful attribute of God, is present always and everywhere. I am comforted as my heart opens to the divine love within me, knowing that this same love enfolds all of those I hold dear, no matter where they are on the eternal journey of life. Peace and strength grow in my awareness as I open myself to love's expression. I bless everyone who comes to mind today with a loving thought. I speak a loving word or perform a simple act of kindness wherever I can. As I bring comfort to others, I am comforted also. And from Psalms 119, let your steadfast love become my comfort according to your promise to your servant. The word for the day, comfort. The affirmation, the love in my heart is my comfort. And we are blessed as we move into our meditation.
And we do sit here together this morning with our hearts open, open to receive all of the goodness that is available for us in every moment of our lives. And sitting here in comfort, as our daily word spoke of this morning, knowing that when we are surrounded by the energy that we create here together, regardless of what is happening in our lives, we feel held, we feel comforted. We know that we are appreciated just as we are in this very, very moment. As we begin to look at our lives and the choices that we've made, and where we are today, resting right here and now in this sanctuary, we know that our path has been filled with joy, it's been filled with challenge, it's been filled with some sorrow. And we know that with each step that we've taken on that path, through all of the different feelings and thoughts that we've had, that in any moment we have been doing our best. And sometimes we say, well, I could always have done better. It's our wake-up call, knowing that in each moment we are doing the best we could do, or we would make a different choice. And as Reverend Ken likes to say, we can always choose again. So as we move into the silence this morning, I'd like you to take an inner journey. And I would like you to just see yourselves walking on a beautiful path, knowing that it is your path of spiritual growth. And watch yourself with love and with compassion, knowing the preciousness that you are. and acknowledging yourself for who you are, knowing that you are walking this path with intent and with joy, with expectation and with knowingness that all is good all the time. So let us move now into our heart space for moments of silence. And now, as we gently begin to move from our deep inner altar, that place where we feel the presence, know the love, that place where all goodness of who we are rests and can be accessed in any moment. From that place, we move back into this here and now, sitting here in acknowledgement of all we are, knowing that we are the reflection of the Christ, knowing that we are the hands and feet of God right here on earth. And as we claim that for ourselves, let's claim it for each person in our sphere and beyond that you would like held in prayer this morning. We will state aloud each name, each place, each situation that we would like to hold in prayer, knowing that as they are spoken, we are all holding it in prayer. So together, and we rest in assurance that each name, place, and situation that has been put forth this morning is held in prayer. And as we release those prayers to the universe, we know that all goodness is transpiring in every moment for people, for places, and for situations, regardless of what our physical senses are showing us. Our spiritual mind and heart hold the wisdom and the knowledge, knowing that all is well. And as we know, we ground ourselves in prayer first. So let us say our own names together, aloud. Carolyn. So for all of our names that have been stated, each place, person, and situation has been stated, and each name that has faithfully been put in our prayer box, knowing that prayer is always answered, we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Thank you. And now, Laura and Anton.
We're going to do a song by another presenter at our Asilomar gathering later on this summer, Jamie Lula. Keep on walking.
Yeah, you can use shakers on this one. Walk a mile or a minute in another man's shoes. He's got a path to take to find his truth. Any way you spin it, he's a lot like you. Finding his faith on roads that you'd never choose.
Keep on walking. Keep on walking. Don't let it crowd your vision. Love be your only mission always. Let go the old condition. Let love be your only mission always. Keep on walking. Keep on walking.
Tell a tale you're in it, hear a brother man's blues. Got a destination now and no excuse. Why do you condemn it when it's not your own? You can't unsee it once that light has shone.
Keep on walking.
Keep on walking. Keep on playing. Jude, thanks for keeping the
Keep
beats.
on
Here we go.
Don't let it cloud your vision. Love be your only mission always. Let go the old condition. Let love be your only mission always. Keep on walking. Keep on walking. One foot in front of the other, hand in hand, one with another. Walk with your sister and brother always. One foot in front of the other, hand in hand, one with another. Walk with your sister and brother always. Don't let it cloud your vision. Love be your only mission always. Let go the old condition. Let love be your only mission always. Don't let it cloud your vision. Love be your only mission always. Let go the old condition. Let love be your only mission always. Keep on walking. Keep on walking. Keep on walking. Keep on walking.
Thank you. Thank you for being our rhythm section today. We needed that backup band.
And isn't it great when we just stand up and take care of ourselves exactly like we need to? Thank you, Anton. That was a great model for all of us. Well, you know that for the last month we've been talking about the 4 agreements based on the book by Don Miguel Luis. And when Andy and I talked about his coming today, I asked if he would like to talk to us about the 4th agreement or whether he'd like to change his own topic to whatever he wanted it to be. And he generously agreed that we would do the 4th agreement today. So we're ending our whole series in the month of May, which is great. So Andy, please come forward. I'd like to introduce once again Andy Torkelson, who was the minister for about 10 years at CSL up in Paradise and who now lives in Chico. Andy.
Thank you so much for having me here today. This is such a sweet room. I just love this place, and I got here early today. I was out in the parking lot with a ginger cat was running around out there. So anyway, I love this place. The Four Agreements is really special to me on a lot of levels. I don't remember when it came out, but I mean the year, but I do remember when it came out because I was working as a counselor in juvenile corrections, and I was working in a 70-person dorm on a 180-day program that young men would come to who were had a lot of felonies, but the idea was to keep them out of prison as long as possible. So I worked with people basically 13 to 25. We kind of split up that group. And one day, all of a sudden, the dorm started to there was a trickle in of these little books called the Four Agreements. And they were being sent in by family members and girlfriends and wives, and some of the staff who worked there, brought them in. And we'd throw them on the bookshelves, and our clients just devoured the book. And I loved it because Don Miguel Ruiz's approach seems to be so simplistic, but it will whiplash you. I mean, you go along, da-da-da-da-da, and all of a sudden, wham, and it's just so powerful. And there's two parts to it that seem to affect our clientele of the Four Agreements. There were two parts of the book that I seem to see the most questions about, the most conversations about. And one of them was the whole idea of domestication. Basically, this idea, and I'll encapsulate it. Don Miguel Ruiz says, we come into the world perfect, we know everything we need to know, and then we start to grow up, and at some point, depending upon how healthy our families are, and depending upon how healthy our school teachers are, and the police officers, and all those other people in our lives, our society, our culture, we start to be molded into living a certain way that sometimes breaks apart or puts on hold what we know within our hearts. The clientele I worked with really related to that because they could so relate to the idea of once upon a time being a little kid who was running around chasing butterflies and carefree, no matter what neighborhoods they were in, no matter what families they were in. And then one day they noticed that they began to become sort of caught up in what was going on in some of the neighborhoods and families. And then would go to school and start getting caught up in some of that. And I remember I was having a conversation with one gentleman one time, and he was sharing with me this idea of what happened to him. And I said, when you read this book, what do you relate to? He said, I was in a classroom, and when I grew up in the family I grew up in, I found myself running out to any kind of nature I could find anywhere, even if it was just a vacant lot in between two buildings and whatever, and chasing bugs and butterflies and birds. And he said, I love that so much, and I would be out there as long as I could, and then all of a sudden I'm in a classroom, and I just found myself staring out the window, wanting to go out there so bad instead of wanting to be inside. And what was happening inside was difficult for him because he was dyslexic and things like that, and struggled, and his home life was not so great. And so he and I had a conversation about the idea of going back to that. It's interesting, in the drug rehab world, we talk about recovery. And there's a saying that you can't recover unless you know what you're recovering. And I do 3 nights of groups a week where I work 2 hours a night. So I do 6 to 8 hours of groups every single week with people. Right now I've got about 13, 14 people in a group. And this week I kind of took up that theme. In order to recover, we have to know what we're recovering. So I went around the room and I said, I want you each to tell me what you think you're recovering. And some of them, it kind of came up. What was interesting was, this is the theme that ran through it in every way, shape, or form. Who I used to be. Now, the group I work with is anywhere from their early 20s up to 50s. and who I used to be. And there was one gentleman who said, he said, I don't know what to say. And so I said, okay, just hang out for a minute. And I went around, and I kind of came back to him. And he listened to what people had said. And the people who talked about who I used to be, some of them got very specific. There were maybe traumas at one time. There were things in school. There were things in families. There were things in their own lives. Maybe it was when they created the relationship with the substance or the drug. I want to go, I want to recover that person before. I want to recover that person before. So I came back to the gentleman who we skipped over, and he says, well, I hear all this and I can relate to it, but I don't know who that person is. I have no memory of that person. He said, I have been kind of uptight and screwed up my whole life, even as a kid. And so in terms of whatever, I am so blessed. I think, like all of us in these teachings, the thing I love about the metaphysical side of the tracks and New Thought and things like Unity and what used to be called religious science and Centers for Spiritual Living is that we're so class oriented and we're so learning oriented and we're so, we go after new ideas. And so what came to me was something I learned years ago in the presence of some really great teachers I've had. And so I said to him, I said, are you aware of a picture of yourself when you were, say, a toddler? Yeah, my mom has all kinds of pictures. I said, I want you to think of a picture where there's nobody with you. You're just standing or sitting, but you're a toddler. You're really young, and you just seem like you're just in this dopey world. You're just so glad to be here. He said, yeah. In fact, he says, my mom, texted me a bunch of pictures a while back, family, and that's one of them. He said, I could pull it up on my phone. And I said, I'm suggesting you look at that picture, and that's what you're trying to recover. That's what you're going back to. Before the domestication. Now, the second thing that most of the clients over the years that I work with loved about the book was the assignment I got today, Divine Right Action. She said, hey, do you want to speak on Always Do Your Best? Oh, God, yeah, that's right in the wheelhouse. It was Divine Right Action. It's like, is she hanging out, in my closet or something, right? And so the reason for that is because people that I've worked with over the years, and I know this from my own life, it's not pleasant to live in an unskilled way. Now, I look at this idea, always do your best, and then I put a subtitle under it for me, and that's kind of going to be where I'm coming from today. Living a spiritually skilled life. What does that mean? Well, I think for most of us here in the 21st century, I think it's our interactions with people and how we show up and how we greet the day and how we do our job. Not the jobs we do, not the cars we drive, not the stuff we do, but how we do it. Because it seems to me that in my years of working with people, what it boils down to is not just the events themselves, but how they were done. Yeah, I showed up to my sister's wedding and I was loaded. I haven't gotten along with my dad for years. Every time we get together, I just end up picking a fight with him. A police officer says something to me, and next thing I know, I'm getting locked up because of my mouth, I got that sister out there, and I love my sister, but oh my God. I mean, we were together for 20 minutes, and I find myself just like, what am I doing? And so it's the interpersonal things, and I think that as we look around our world today with some of the challenges going on, and I'm not going to go down the laundry list, I mean, does it boil down to interpersonal, relations between people, between countries, between men and women, between black and white, between, Christians and Catholics and religious science, all that stuff. It's just, I know that for me, when I have shown up in an unskilled way, later on it's like, God, Andy, what are you doing? Why did you get short? Why did you get angry? Why did you become aloof? Why did you not listen? Why were you not present? That's what bothers me. And so when I see always do our best, that's kind of where I go, because that's what my world has been full of. And I would venture to say that if the world could live by the four agreements, this world would truly be a different place. I mean, there's some great books out there, but the four agreements, really? I mean, it should be there at the UN, you know? I mean, when people get up and give their speeches about war and stuff, someone says, "Excuse me, sir, domestication." I don't know. You know, how long you guys been fighting? 2,000 years? You think you might want to break that? You know, or, you know, do you realize there was a time in your life as a little kid you weren't into war? You might want to go back there. You know, go back to pre-K when you learned how to share the crayons. And you can't seem to do that today, you know. And so this idea, and if you notice, I use the term skilled, and that's a term that, skilled and unskilled is a term that I learned in two ways. I learned it from the Eastern traditions that we all study. You know, I know that all of you in this room are students of all kinds of spiritual ideas and philosophies. You're well-read people. You've been exposed to a lot. The Eastern philosophies talk about skilled, unskilled, healthy, unhealthy. It gets us away from good and bad and right and wrong because of that judgment. The minute we hear someone say, "You're wrong," that's it. The door comes up. I like to have a conversation with you. I really care about you, but you're wrong. Gone, right? And so skilled and unskilled, healthy and unhealthy. Now, granted, it depends on how you use them. Saying, you know, "I'd like to talk to you about you not being skilled." I mean, you could also go back, but so you have to find a better way to put it. I'm so blessed at where I work, because those of us who work there, if you could be a fly on the wall, you'd hear us have really interesting conversations. Like my boss would say, "You know, Andy, last week when I was talking to you, I think that you were starting to get kind of unhealthy around that. Is that true? Why do you think I became unhealthy?" "Because your skill level kind of dropped a little bit." You know what I'm saying? I noticed that. Let me tell you what I saw. We do that because those are the conversations we have with our clients. We want our clients to move from being unskilled to skilled. Because when we go from unskilled to skilled, we can go from unhealthy to healthy. I was thinking about this. I watched a documentary recently, especially nature. I love all the, you know, the Planet Earth and Blue Planet and all that BBC stuff and PBS stuff and everything. I watch all that stuff. And there was this one I saw a while back. I was just one of those nights where I just wanted to check out and just, you know, take in some nature. And so I'm watching on take in nature on TV. That's great. Welcome to the 21st century, right? So anyway, so it was, you know, somebody had filmed this. It was an African tale, you know, and so this pride of lions had gone out, and the ladies, they're the ones who, you know, the ladies in lions, they do all the work, you know. The men just like groom the mane and stuff, you know. But anyway, so the ladies went out and they grabbed a hold of a zebra or somebody and brought him back, and so everybody was eating, including the lion with the mane. But actually, this story is about the lion and the mane, because if you look at lions, the ladies have they've been built to hunt and to take down prey. I mean, they're just a perfect machine. They are amazing, and they hunt together. Very often in prides, it's sisters or it's mothers and daughters. They're amazing. The lion, the male, is not built to hunt because he is so big and bulky. They're not very fast. He is there to fight. And they are truly an amazing fighter. In fact, some people think that they evolved the mane so that they don't get so torn up, that the mane actually protects them. That's the beauty of evolution. So the pride is they're chowing down on a wildebeest or a zebra or something. And then there's some hyenas that show up. And they're going to challenge that pride to get that kill. So the male lion gets up and he walks towards them. And the kids and the ladies are still eating, but they have an eye on what's going on. And so there's a number of hyenas, and he's out there, and he stands his ground. Now, we know if you watch as many documentaries as I do, sometimes the hyenas win in that one. They're a rough group too. You know, they get a bad rap. Lion King they were not good to them. You know, hyenas are pretty amazing. And so you can kind of see the leadership of the hyenas coming up, and we got the lion out there, and suddenly there's a magic distance, and they both stopped and they stood their ground. The lion begins to roar. It's a weird roar though. It's kind of low and deep. It's actually, I mean, even on my little TV set, it was kind of scary. I had to turn the lights on. And so the hyenas are doing their yipping and barking and all those sounds they make, which they're creepy in their own way too. So I'm thinking, we're going to see a fight here, right? But they stood their ground, and this somehow communication was out there in the air. The consciousness was there. And eventually the hyenas began to slowly back up, and the male lion slowly backed up. I thought that was so cool because one of the fiercest killers in the world, the African male lion, backed off. And I sat there watching that. I thought, wow, this is amazing. You know, it's almost like, and I don't know how a lion's consciousness is. I don't know what's going on in there. It gets into instinct and stuff like that, and I want to talk about that in just a second. But it's like, do we want to lose any more of our family and fur over this? And we can say, well, it's no big deal, but I mean, this is life or death for all these animals because, you know, they ain't going to the supermarket every day, you know, and sometimes the zebras have moved on, you know, and so for predators, it could be a really tough world. And they backed off, and I looked at that, and I thought, wow, that's amazing. Amazing to me about this idea, and I think about Don Miguel Ruiz, always do your best. Well, for a lion, it's not always to have a fight. Sometimes it's about to stand your ground and then concede once, you know, he didn't take off after him. He didn't call him names. He didn't throw rocks at him. He didn't tell them they're evil. He backed off. Stood his ground and backed off, and they backed off. Now, what's really interesting about this shows what a wonk I am. I was thinking, wow, you know, African lions, their prides are patriarchal. And I think the hyenas are matriarchal. So I went to the ultimate wisdom in the 21st century to find out. I got my phone, and I started looking on there, and sure enough, hyenas are matriarchal, and it's really interesting because of all the animals that say we call them tribal in nature, you know, primates are tribal, you know, and wolves and things like that. The hyenas are one of the few that are truly matriarchal. It's not just that they have an alpha female. I mean, they are matriarchal. And so I thought, wow, that's really cool, because what this says is doing our best. And I think about the conflicts we have and stuff. Is it the working out between the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine? I love that. It always comes back to energy work, you know? So I sat there and I thought, wow, the lion, he's skilled. The hyenas are skilled. Much more skilled than we are a lot of times. I mean, I ain't backing down off my sister, I'll tell you what. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can only be good for so long, you know? Charles Fillmore talks about this idea of intuition, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because before I get to what he says, so I'm in this group the other night, and so we're talking about, you know, I can only recover what I know needs to be recovered. And see, that's a very personal thing. I can't, to my clients, I can't hand them a book like, oh, Andy, that thing you need to recover, this is what Andy needs to recover, 200 pages, okay? Yeah. You can get that on tablet too if you want to, but it's not like that. It's a personal thing. It's an inside job. And so we started talking about that. We started talking about a term called higher wisdom. Because I work in a secular field. We're biopsychosocial spiritual. We're not 12-step, we're not faith-based. So I have to use terms. Higher power, higher consciousness, higher intelligence, higher self. And so I was talking about, listening to our higher self. How am I going to reclaim that kid back then, that kid that lost his way? Well, it's about the higher self. It's about working with the inner child, all that kind of stuff. Well, where is that? Well, it's inside somewhere. It's an inner voice. And, I'm in a room full of people like, an inner voice? What are you talking about? I got an inner voice that tells me to go get some heroin. Is that the one, go get a dozen donuts and eat them alone somewhere. You know what I'm saying? I got that inner voice. I can relate to that. And so it's this idea, and a lot of times in religion and spirituality, it talks about that still small voice. That voice that is caring and loving. And so as a person running the group, that's where I'm trying to take them. The idea of self-care, self-love. The idea of instead of reacting to life, we respond to life. That's being skilled. Usually when people get themselves in trouble, it's very reactionary. It's like the lion. He could have been very reactionary. He went out, created some space, stated his case. They stated their case. They looked at each other. They both stated their cases. They gave themselves room before they responded. People who tend to live in unskilled ways are reactionary. So I say, listen to the voice that is asking you to respond in a loving way. Ask yourself a question, what do you want this outcome to be? When my sister and I get together, do I want to win or do I want to love? If we have a conflict, do I want us to find a solution or do I want to win? Those kinds of things. There's a difference between reacting and responding. Being clear about what we want. And I believe that this is what comes into in our spiritual teachings. We talk a lot about intuition. Metaphysics is full of it. New Thought is full of it. Unity is full of it. The idea of intuition. Charles Fillmore says, intuition is a natural knowing capacity, a spiritual truth, without having to resort to intellect alone, a wisdom of the heart, which is superior to the head. Isn't Charles Fillmore cool? The heart is superior to the head. Intuition is akin to instinct. Ernest Holmes from Religious Science, when in his definition of intuition, he equates it to instinct, and he said, we would be, what did Holmes say? We would be well advised to react to our intuition the way that animals react to their instinct. In other words, start living by your intuition. What's the intuition of the lion? This ain't a good day to fight. We can work this out. In his response, in his skilled way, in his healthy way. Brian Walker Brown, who's a spiritual writer, did a work on the I Ching, which I really like a lot. This little blue book on the I Ching that he put out, I use it all the time. It's full of notes. I've underlined stuff. Eventually, everything will be underlined in it. I just keep going through and, oh, I didn't see that, So eventually, it's, someday when I die, they'll find this book. Everything is underlined. And he's got notes all through it, Anyway, he says, allowing inferior thoughts to pass away, you make room for an expansion of your superior qualities, which will lead inevitably to good. And being a metaphysician, I capitalize good because for me, it's inevitably to God, because God is good. And I want to end this morning by quoting Jesus. This is Luke 17:21. We talk about heaven all the time, right? Heaven and hell. Religion is always about heaven. And, we talk about in in unity and religious science, we talk about heaven being a state of consciousness. Do you believe in heaven or hell? Well, come back in about an hour and we'll find out, So it depends on where we are. And so I love this. This is so when I think about, when always do your best, when I can always do my best, I'm living in heaven, I can feel good about that. I can say, okay, I worked it out with the hyenas. We're good, all right, for right now. That's like heaven, right? Okay. So this is so I'm finally getting to Jesus here, all right? So Jesus said, neither shall they say, lo here, or lo there, for behold, the kingdom of heaven is within you. What do we need to recover? The kingdom of heaven. And it's right here, before we got screwed up. I want to thank you guys for having me here today. This is a beautiful place. Thank you so much. So thank you.
That was wonderful, wasn't it? Isn't it wonderful when a person has the skill to help us to laugh while getting the message? Thank you, Andy. It was great. I was looking around. You weren't quite as skilled as you are now. Oh, thank you. We appreciate you. So, ushers, will you please come forward? This morning, as we've heard about being skilled, about doing our best, about knowing how heaven is right here within each of us, we know that part of living in heaven has to do with generosity. When I give, I feel good. I feel at the top of my game. And so as we sit here together this morning, knowing that we have given of our time, there are times when we give of our talent. And now is time to give of our treasure, knowing that it goes for the greater good of not only our church here in Reading, but also our community, our nation, and our world. So with love and gratitude for all that is given from a generous heart, with joy, I say thank you, God, and so it is. So let us hold our offerings together close to our hearts. And let us say, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Abundance. Thank you, ushers.
I would just venture to say that when you were in 8th grade and got kicked out for your developing your skill of humor, you were just ahead of your time.
out your love and pass it on. Let it shine for everyone, so we all may know, and we all may see that we are one great family.
And if I could ask our ushers to come forward. Divine Spirit, we give thanks for these offerings. We give thanks for the stewardship of Unity Church in Reading. For the highest and best, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen. And let's join together in our consciousness statement. Could everybody join me? Divine order is now manifesting in every phase of this ministry through its expanding prosperity, attendance, and by being a guiding light for others. Amen. Thank you. And now for our announcements. I know everyone wonders where we were last week, and I just wanted to know that we were in Sedona, so it was a pleasant renewal, and we were over there. We were hoping to see Roger and Julie. They were, they're traveling, and they were planning to be in Sedona on Thursday, but unfortunately, their plans got waylaid, and we didn't get a chance to see them. They didn't make it until Sunday. But anyway, we were with them in our thoughts. I'd like to acknowledge all of the volunteers that made this service possible. The church office will be open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week, 10 to 4. You can also see Carolyn, Kathy, or myself before or after service for prayer, if anyone needs it. We have a noon meditation on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday here in the sanctuary. So if you'd like to come in for meditation, you can. You can call in. We actually have a phone line dedicated to our meditation, so you can call in and join us by phone. Our classes this week is A Course of Love, the Presence class, A Course in Miracles, Way of the Heart, and A Course of Love will all be on. If you want to see their times, they're out on the board. Also, you can check our bulletin board for all of our 12-step programs that meet here at the church. We are planning a prayer class, and we're also soliciting for prayer chaplains, and that class will begin next week, June the 5th, and it'll be held here in the sanctuary after service. So if you do have any interest in a prayer class and learning a little bit about the method of prayer that we use in Unity, you can talk to Carolyn or myself. There will also be a women's retreat on June the 17th. That's a Saturday. So for more information, there's going to be a sign-up sheet and information. Right. Here's the information.
First, thank you. First, the prayer class. One person asked me, what book are we going to be? Hi. What book are we going to be using for the prayer class? We are not using a book, and so you don't need to buy a book for this class. I'm going to be bringing together, and Ken will be bringing together, information from a series of books. And so what I will have for you is an extensive outline each week about what we're talking about, what the main points from the books are. So please stay after service next week and try the prayer class out. There is a sign-up sheet out on the table, so it just gives us a clue as to how many people might be coming and how many outlines and fact sheets I'd like to make for you guys. Also, the women's retreat. It is going to be a beautiful, wonderful day. It is going to be about nurturing you and who you are right now. It's not going to be a day of lots of information. It's going to be a day of self-care, a day of bonding with other women, a day of resting in beauty. So the sign-up sheet is out there now. There's a little flyer about it. So women, please consider carefully. I'd love to have you there. And just sign up and I can get hold of you during the week and the upcoming weeks to apprise you of just what's happening if you're going to need to bring anything. Lunch is provided for you that day, so that's part of your nurturing. Kathy? Saturday, June 17th. Oh, excuse me. You know what? I've done that last week and the week before, too. So scratch June 17th, which is a Friday, and mark June 18th, which is a Saturday. And all of you are welcome. Thank you, Ken.
And we look forward to seeing everyone that's here today next week. And if you're not able to be with us, we do stream live on Facebook. And if you need any assistance in getting on Facebook, I'll be glad to help. Other than that, why don't we join together in our peace song? On earth,
And let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And it was quite beautiful this morning to see some of you just reaching out and holding hands. Isn't it great that we're getting back to the point in our society again where we feel good and safe and loved and cared for and connecting in that way? Now for our prayer for protection, and Diana will read our response for us. The light of God surrounds us.
We are the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
We are the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
We embrace that power.
The presence of God watches over us.
We live our lives in God's presence.
Wherever
we are,
God
God
is.
is.
And so it is. Have a beautiful week, everybody, and thank you for being here.